While the guests toasted to love and fortune atop the city's most luxurious hotel, a 10-year-old boy hiding among the service corridors heard a sound that no one else heard. A cry coming from the shaft of an elevator that had been out of service for years. Leo knew that if he told management, his mother, the night shift receptionist, could lose her job. But the crying continued, and in that moment, caught between fear and courage, he decided to open the forbidden door. When the light cut through the darkness of the well, Leo saw something that made him forget to breathe. A girl tied up, her eyes pleading for help. And the worst part? It was the billionaire's own daughter toasting up there.
The clock was almost midnight when Leo pressed his face against the marble window of the Hotel Donizetti's main lobby. The reflection showed a thin boy with attentive eyes, who seemed too small for that world of glitz and formality. He watched the men in suits and women in long dresses hurry past, as if luxury were the only language possible inside. For him, that hotel wasn't just his mother's work, it was a labyrinth full of hidden stories. Donizetti, his mother, was typing something on the reception computer while exchanging discreet glances with the manager. She knew Leo loved to explore, but she had forbidden him from going beyond the service corridors. "This is Mommy's workplace, not a playground," she would always say, adjusting his uniform tie. Even so, Leo couldn't contain his curiosity. The doors that said employees only were, for him, irresistible invitations. Between clients, the boy used to wander backstage, learning how the hotel worked. He knew when the security guards changed shifts, which cameras were broken, and even where the smell of fresh coffee mingled with that of cleaning products. For him, every detail was a secret. The hotel was a giant that breathed, and Leo knew the rhythm of its breathing. Sometimes he would pretend to be a detective, mentally noting down clues he found in the hallways, a forgotten key, a poorly locked door, an elevator that never opened. When his mother finished her shift, he would wait for her asleep in one of the armchairs in the hall, dreaming of adventures that only existed there. That night, however, something different hung in the air. The murmur of voices, the scent of expensive perfume, and the distant sound of violins wafted from the panoramic terrace. It was Donizetti's gala party. He was the hotel owner and one of the richest men in the country. The whole city was talking about his marriage to young Viviane, a woman of rare beauty and a calculated smile. Leo, curious, went up a floor to peek inside. Through the cracks in the service staircase, he saw hurried waiters, gleaming trays, and loud laughter. Everything seemed like a movie from another world. "A toast to the new era of the Donizetti family," someone announced into the microphone, followed by applause and glasses being raised under the golden lights. Leo, hidden among boxes and pulleys, watched everything with fascination and a hint of unease. That joy seemed rehearsed. As the clock ticked on, the boy decided to explore the lower floors, away from the party, where the hotel seemed to sleep. The silence there was thick, almost alive. He followed the distant sound of pipes and engines, imagining that perhaps he would find a new mystery. The pocket flashlight trembled in his hand, casting shadows that danced on the peeling walls. He walked past the linen closet, down the maintenance corridor, and into a room full of chemicals. Everything seemed the same as so many other nights, until he heard a strange sound, a soft, muffled noise coming from somewhere nearby. He stopped, held his breath, and tried to listen more closely. The sound repeated itself, a sob, a cry, weak but unmistakable.
Leo slowly turned his flashlight and saw the iron door of the deactivated elevator, rusty and covered in dust. A sign in red letters read, "Danger, do not use." The crying was coming from there. The boy felt his whole body go cold. No guest knew of the existence of that elevator, only longtime employees. He approached one step,
Then another. The sound grew louder. Someone was calling for help. Leo's heart was pounding so hard he could barely breathe. He looked around, making sure no one was watching. His hand trembled as he touched the cold metal of the door. "Hello? Is anyone there?" he whispered. For a moment, silence answered. Then a weak, almost choked voice replied, "Help me." And that was how Leo's life changed. Forever. What if you were the one hearing that crying coming from the dark? Before the next chapter begins, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what Leo was going to find inside that elevator, everything will change. As panic grew in his chest, Leo took 2 steps back, trying to understand what he was hearing. The sound wasn't an echo, nor the noise of some trapped animal. It was human, and it came from the depths of the well. He swallowed hard. If he ran to the reception and told his mother, she might call him a liar, or worse, the manager might punish him for being where he shouldn't be. He needed to think. Upstairs, the party music continued. The guests toasted under the illuminated sky, oblivious to the despair hidden beneath their feet. He felt a wave of anger and confusion. How could no one have noticed? He turned on his flashlight again and pointed it into the gaps of the elevator. The beam of light revealed cables, grease, and further in, a stain of light-colored fabric. Then, a movement. "Please," the voice returned, clearer. He bent down and forced the door open with his hands, but it barely budged. The metals seemed welded together by time. He knew where to find the maintenance wrenches. He'd seen an employee use them days before. Determined, he ran to the tool cabinet at the end of the hall. His hands were sweating so much he almost dropped the flashlight. Back in the elevator, he inserted the key into the emergency lock and turned it forcefully. The door creaked open, revealing the dark shaft that descended several floors. The beam of light cut through the void until it found the small ledge where a girl in a white dress huddled. Her legs trembled, and her dirty face was covered in tears. Leo felt his stomach churn. She was real. He said, "Calm down. I'm here. I'll get you out of there." He tried to sound brave. The girl shook her head, murmuring something he didn't understand. Her voice seemed choked, as if she were gagged. He looked up. The well ended on the ground floor, sealed. No one would hear a scream. The only way out was through him. The notion of danger hit him like a punch, but the fear of leaving her there was even greater.
Suddenly, a radio noise echoed down the hallway. Leo turned off his flashlight and hid behind a cleaning cart. 2 security guards walked by, chatting about the party. "Old Donizetti looks like a different person with that new woman. One of those who smiles too much," one of them said. When the sound of footsteps faded, Leo took a deep breath and went back to the elevator. Now he couldn't back out anymore. He looked at the clock, almost 1 in the morning. He knew his mother would be busy at the reception desk. He had little time. He grabbed a roll of rope and a maintenance cloth, tied them together, and improvised a belt around his waist. "I'm going down, okay?" he said to the girl. She blinked, startled. Her gaze pleaded for help, but also for trust. Leo turned the flashlight back on and began to descend, inch by inch. The smell of burnt oil and mold filled the air. The sound of the wind rising through the shaft seemed like a constant whisper. Every movement made the iron creak. At one point, Leo slipped and almost let go of the rope, but he managed to steady himself in time. "It's okay," he shouted, more to himself than to the girl. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, he reached the small platform. She was pale, her eyes brimming with tears, and her wrists marked by the restraints. Leo removed the cloth from her mouth, and she took a deep breath, sobbing. "My name is Clara," she said weakly. She left me here." Leo frowned. "Who did this to you?" Clara hesitated, her lips trembling. "My stepmother." The echo of her words lingered in the cold air of the shaft, as if even the elevator knew that something terrible had just been revealed.
Leo felt a shiver run down his spine when he heard the word stepmother. The stories his mother told him at night about villains disguised as elegant people had never seemed so real. Clara trembled, her white dress stained with grease, and each of her sobs echoed like a cry for help. He looked up. The well was high, dark, and damp. No one would hear from there. I needed to think fast. "Is she coming back?" Leo asked, holding the flashlight steady even though his hands trembled. Clara just shook her head. "She said no one would come, that I was going to disappear." Her voice sounded small, almost hopeless. Leo swallowed hard. This wasn't detective play anymore. It was a life at stake. He pulled the rope and carefully tested the knot. "We're going to get out of here, I promise." Using the strength of his arms, Leo began to climb with Clara strapped to his back. The effort made him sweat and tremble, but the thought of leaving her there was worse. Every inch gained was a victory against fear. His boots scraped against the metal, and the echo of their movements seemed to betray them both. If anyone passed by in the hallway, all would be lost.
When he finally reached the top, his whole body ached. He helped Clara down and leaned her against the cold wall. She cried softly, repeating her father's name. Leo knelt beside her, trying to think of the next step. He couldn't take her to the reception. If her mother found out, she would call the manager. And with that, Viviane would know that Clara was alive. He needed to hide the girl first. Determined, Leo led her to the maintenance room, a forgotten room smelling of rust and filled with old boxes. He closed the door slowly, turned on the flashlight, and found a blanket. "Stay here for a while, okay? I'll take care of this." Clara grabbed his arm, her eyes filled with fear. "She'll find me, Leo." He took a deep breath and replied firmly, "Not if she thinks you're still in the elevator." Back in the hallway, Leo heard heavy footsteps approaching. He turned off his flashlight and hid behind a stack of boxes. Two men in suits were talking quietly. "Viviane is too nervous. She said the girl must have run away. It's best if no one finds out." Leo held his breath. Those were her bodyguards, accomplices. Now everything made sense. When the hallway was empty, Leo emerged from his hiding place, his heart racing. The revelation left him dizzy. How could anyone do that to a child? He looked at the ceiling and heard the distant sounds of the party. Laughter, toasts, applause. The contrast between the horror and the glamour of the hotel made him nauseous. He needed to act quickly. He went to the storeroom and got a bottle of water and some biscuits for Clara. Before returning, he stopped in front of the elevator again. The metal still smelled of her fear. He closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "I'll figure something out." When he reopened his eyes, he was no longer the curious boy exploring hallways. He was a boy with a mission. As he climbed the service stairs, Leo began to devise a plan. He knew no one would believe him, and that if he called the police, his mother would pay the price. So only one option remained: speak directly to Donizetti. But how to approach a billionaire surrounded by security guards and guests? A risky thought began to form in his mind, and the more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. On the terrace, the party shone as if nothing could break the euphoric atmosphere. Golden lights reflected in the glasses, and the sound of jazz mingled with conversations about business and travel. Leo discreetly went up to the top floor, peeking around corners, his heart racing. He was looking for a way to get closer to Donizetti without being noticed. Through the glass window, he saw the tycoon, a tall man in an impeccable black suit, laughing beside his new wife. Viviane exuded confidence. Her dress shimmered, and her smile was sharp as a blade.
Leo watched her and felt a chill. The woman Clara had described as her stepmother was there, dancing while the girl nearly died in the dark. He needed to act before anyone noticed Clara was missing. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. "What are you doing here, little boy?" It was Andre, the waiter who always helped him. Leo hesitated, then replied, "I need to speak with Mr. Donizetti. It's urgent." Andre frowned nervously. "That's impossible, Leo. Go back downstairs. You'll end up getting into trouble."
Leo approached, whispering, "It's about his daughter. She's alive." Andre paled, his eyes darted quickly, and the boy sensed the fear. "Who told you that?" Leo understood in that instant. Andre knew. He was on Vivian's side. Feigning calm, the boy thanked him and walked away, pretending to give up, but inside, anger pushed him to continue. As he descended a side staircase, he heard a familiar sound, the same muffled cry echoing through the ventilation. He ran to the room where he had left Clara, fearing the worst. The girl was awake, her eyes wide. "They came here. They said my name. They said they were going to find the body." Leo hugged her, feeling her body tremble. Time was running out. "I know what to do," he murmured. He took a cloth and wiped the girl's dirty face. "You'll be fine. I just need a minute upstairs." Clara looked at him confused, but saw the determination in his face. Leo took a deep breath and went back upstairs. On the way, he crossed paths with employees who ignored him, believing he was just the receptionist's son wandering around. When he arrived back at the entrance to the party, the air was thick with perfume and fake laughter. He blended into the crowd, walking among the guests. The ground seemed to tremble beneath his feet. He knew that if he failed, Vivian would find out, and danger would come for him and his mother. But there was no turning back. The plan formed in his head, to feign a fainting spell near Donizetti. That way, no one would suspect anything, and he would have the chance to speak directly to the billionaire. His heart pounded like a drum. His hands sweated. He walked to the center of the hall, right next to the magnate. The light danced on his face, and Leo thought of Clara, alone, hidden in the dark. Then he let his body slump. He fell, feigning a faint. The glasses clinked, the music stopped. The murmur turned to panic. "The boy! The receptionist's son!" someone shouted. Donizetti crouched down, worried, and Leo, with his last breath of courage, whispered the words that would change everything. "Mr. Donizetti, your daughter is alive." The billionaire's gaze froze, and in that instant, luxury lost its luster. The room froze for a moment. Donizetti looked around, confused, and held the boy in his arms. "What did you say?" he asked in a hoarse voice. Leo feigned dizziness and repeated in a whisper, "Your daughter, sir, is alive, in the deactivated elevator." The tycoon paled, the blood draining from his face. In seconds, the host's charm gave way to pure terror. Across the room, Vivian noticed her husband's reaction and began walking towards him. A smile still adorned her face, but her eyes betrayed panic. "Darling, what happened? Did the boy faint?" she asked, touching Donizetti's shoulder. Leo kept his eyes half closed, listening to her wife's hurried breathing. The air around them seemed to freeze.
Donizetti raised his head and called to the security guards in a firm voice, "Take him to the infirmary, now!" But before they obeyed, he added in a low voice, "By the service elevator." The order made Vivian frown. The tycoon took the security guard's radio and discreetly whispered something that only Leo heard. "Where?" The boy replied with his last breath, "Basement, old shaft." Vivian tried to follow her husband, but was interrupted by a reporter who wanted a photo. Donizetti took advantage of the distraction and hurried out with 2 trusted bodyguards. The main elevator was going up and down, but he asked to use the maintenance elevator, the same one Leo had opened. Meanwhile, in the hall, the murmur grew like a fire spreading through silk curtains. Leo was taken to an adjacent room where the hotel doctor examined him. "Lack of sugar," said the man, suspecting nothing. The boy remained lying down, feeling his body tremble, not from weakness, but from anticipation. Downstairs, Donizetti was about to discover the truth, and Viviane, noticing his absence, would begin to suspect something. At that very moment, Clara was still hiding in the maintenance room, clutching the blanket to her chest. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. 2 security guards walked slowly past, talking on the radio. The boss ordered the old elevator to be opened. "This isn't good." She bit her lip, her heart racing. With each passing second, the fear of being discovered grew. Suddenly, the door opened and Leo rushed in, breathless. "He's going there," he said, locking it from the inside. "Her father! He's going to meet her!" Clara's eyes widened, unable to believe it. "My father?" Leo nodded. "But we need to hide. Viviane will try to stop us." He turned off the flashlight and stood silently, listening to the sound of the distant elevator going up and down. Downstairs, Donizetti arrived at the deactivated elevator. The smell of oil and rust filled the air, and the magnate recognized the place. He himself had ordered its closure years ago. "Lights," he ordered. When the security guard's flashlight illuminated the shaft, they saw the rope still hanging. A white fabric thread caught between the cables revealed what had happened. Donizetti paled. "She was here," murmured the billionaire, his voice trembling. "My daughter was here." And when the security guard bent down, he saw something on the floor, a small child's hair ribbon with the initials CD embroidered on it. Donizetti picked it up with trembling hands. The party, the wedding, the luxury, it all crumbled in his mind. "Viviane, what have you done?" he murmured, feeling the fury rise like fire. Meanwhile, upstairs, Viviane hurried through the backstage area, trying to hide her desperation. "Where's Donizetti?" she asked André, the complicit waiter. "He went downstairs. He said something about the elevator," the man replied nervously. Viviane pushed him. "Idiot! He'll find out!" And at that moment, Leo realized she was heading straight for them.
The sound of Vivian's heels echoed down the hallway like the ticking of a bomb about to explode. Leo held his breath and gestured for Clara to be quiet. The lights flickered and the air felt colder than ever. He knew that if the woman found them, it would all end there. No witnesses, no chance for explanation. Vivian opened one door, then another, the expensive perfume filling the heavy, dusty air. "Clara," she called, her voice sweet and false. "Darling, the game's over. You can leave now." Leo felt the girl's body tremble at that tone. His survival instinct kicked in. He took her hand and pointed to the small ventilation window at the back of the room. "There, let's go out that way," he whispered. Clara shook her head, frightened. "It's too narrow!" Leo grabbed a wrench and began to loosen the bars, his heart pounding like a drum. On the other side of the wall, Vivian continued calling, "Your father will be so sad when he finds out you ran away again." The coldness of those words made Clara hold back her tears. The last metal parts gave way, and Leo helped Clara climb out the window. She struggled, scraping her knees, but managed to get through the duct. Leo followed her, pushing the flashlight with his shoulder. On the other side, they fell onto a pile of cleaning cloths. The noise attracted Vivian's attention, who ran into the living room. "Where are they?" she shouted, furious.
As they crawled down the narrow corridor, Leo heard footsteps behind them. Viviane had found their way. "You'll thank me for this one day, you ungrateful girl!" she yelled, her voice echoing like poison. Clara wept silently, but continued crawling. Leo looked back and saw the flashlight beam approaching. He needed to be quick. Finally, they reached the ventilation shaft leading to the underground parking garage. Leo kicked the grate, which snapped open. Fresh air rushed in, mixed with the smell of gasoline and rain. "Run!" he yelled. They both jumped, stumbling on the wet ground. Behind them, Vivienne appeared, her eyes burning with hatred, her dress torn. "You won't get away!" she shouted. But before she could take another step, a shout echoed from the opposite corridor. "Vivienne!" It was Donizetti. He held his daughter's hair ribbon and a flashlight in his other hand. When their eyes met, time seemed to stop. "What did you do to my daughter?" he asked, his voice firm. Vivienne tried to smile. "Darling, she ran away. I was trying—" "Enough!" he shouted. The security guards appeared behind her. Vivienne tried to run, but slipped on the wet ground and fell. The metallic sound echoed through the empty parking lot. Leo ran to Clara, embracing her. She was sobbing, calling for her father. Donizetti knelt down, pulling her into his arms. His sobs mingled with hers. "Forgive me, my daughter. Forgive me for not seeing it sooner."
Leo watched the scene with teary eyes. It was all over, but his body still trembled. Fear, exhaustion, adrenaline, it all mixed together. When the police arrived, Vivienne was already handcuffed. The tycoon looked at Leo and, without saying a word, simply nodded. That small gesture said it all: gratitude, astonishment, and the recognition that a boy had done what no one else had dared to do. The parking lot was now a mix of flashing lights, hurried voices, and the distant sound of approaching sirens. Vivienne, handcuffed, still tried to maintain her composure, her icy gaze fixed on Donizetti. "You don't understand, darling," she said with a broken smile. "She's always been an obstacle. I just solved the problem." Donizetti looked away, holding his daughter tightly, as if he could protect her from his own past. Leo watched everything, partially hidden behind a car, trying to process what had happened. His stepmother's words still echoed in his head. It was as if luxury and wealth had revealed her true face, cold, cruel, and soulless. He looked at Clara, trembling in her father's arms, and felt a mixture of pride and sadness. That girl shouldn't have lived in so much fear. The police arrived, quickly documenting everything. Vivienne was taken away in silence, the sound of her heels echoing as a reminder of a night that would never be forgotten. Andre, the accomplice waiter, was found trying to escape through the back. "I was just following orders," he shouted as he was handcuffed. Leo recognized him and looked away. He didn't want revenge, he wanted justice. Donizetti, his eyes brimming with tears, looked at the boy. "You were the one who warned me, weren't you?" Leo hesitated, but nodded. "She was down there. I heard her crying." The tycoon approached, kneeling before him. "You saved my daughter's life, Leo, and I will never forget that." The boy tried to smile, but the weight of the night still weighed on him. "I just didn't want her to be alone." A paramedic approached to examine Clara, who was pale but conscious. "Everything will be all right now," the man said, as Donizetti carried her to the ambulance. The tycoon looked at Leo once more. "Your mother works here, doesn't she? I want to speak with her personally." Leo swallowed hard. Part of him feared that the incident could jeopardize her job. As the chaos subsided, Leo walked down the empty corridor toward the reception. The once gleaming hotel now seemed like something else entirely, a weary giant full of secrets. The sounds of the parties had ceased, replaced by murmurs and hurried footsteps. He passed the deactivated elevator, still open, and felt a chill. The junkyard looked like a tomb that had finally been opened. In the lobby, Donizetti waited for him, anxiously. "My God, Leo, where were you? What happened? The manager said you fainted." The boy hesitated. How could he explain? "I just helped someone," he he replied simply. She hugged him tightly, not understanding the magnitude of what he had done. You scared me to death, boy. He rested his face on her shoulder, relieved to finally be able to rest. Minutes later, Donizetti appeared accompanied by Clara, now covered by a blanket and holding a glass of water. Donizelia, upon seeing him, paled. "Mr. Donizetti!" Donizetti raised his hand, interrupting. "You don't need to say anything, Donizelia. Your son is a hero." Silence filled the reception area. The woman looked at Leo, confused, and then at her boss. "A hero?" she murmured. Donizetti smiled, tired but sincere. "He saved my daughter, and he saved me too." Donizelia's tears flowed uncontrollably. "My boy," she whispered, hugging him again. Leo closed his eyes.
Minutes later, Donizetti appeared accompanied by Clara, now covered by a blanket and holding a glass of water. Donizelia, upon seeing him, paled. "Mr. Donizetti, The magnate raised his hand, interrupting. "You don't need to say anything, Donizelia. Your son is a hero." Silence filled the reception area. The woman looked at Leo, confused, and then at her boss. "A hero?" she murmured. Donizetti smiled, tired but sincere. "He saved my daughter, and he saved me too." Donizelia's tears flowed uncontrollably. "My boy," she whispered, hugging him again. Leo closed his eyes, feeling his heart lighten for the first time that night. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise, tinging the hotel windows with golden hues. A new day and a new truth were being born together. But even amidst the calm, Leo knew that this story wasn't over yet. Vivian might be imprisoned, but the feeling that there was something more, someone helping her, still haunted him. He just didn't know that on the lower floors of the hotel, a shadowy figure was still watching and smiling. The following morning, the entire hotel seemed different. The bright lights and expensive perfume had been replaced by whispers and television cameras outside. The news had spread like wildfire. Donizetti heiress rescued after being kidnapped inside her own hotel. Leo watched from afar, leaning against the wall, trying to remain invisible. The world didn't know his name, and he preferred it that way. Donizelia, still in shock, was called into the director's office. Donizetti awaited her with a serene gaze. "Your son is special, Celia. I would like you to accept a promotion and a bonus for what he did." The woman tried to refuse, overcome with emotion. "Sir, he's just a child. I didn't know what I was risking." Donizetti smiled. "Precisely for that reason, what he did is even more extraordinary." Meanwhile, Vivian rested in one of the presidential suites under medical supervision. Leo visited her discreetly, bringing a drawing he had made, him and her in front of the elevator, with wings drawn on their backs. Vivian smiled weakly. "My father said we're moving to another city. He wants to start over." Leo nodded. "You deserve a fresh start." But before he could leave, Vivian grabbed his hand. "Vivian wasn't alone, Leo. I heard her talking to someone, an older woman. She said the deal was already done." The boy froze. "Deal?" She nodded, looking at the floor. "She said the money was already guaranteed even if something went wrong." Fear returned to her eyes. Leo descended to the service corridors, where the chaos of the previous night had left its mark. Barrier tape, forgotten tools, and the elevator now sealed off by police. He surveyed the area thoughtfully. Then he heard a voice behind him, calm, hoarse. "Curious, isn't it, kid? Rich people always hide their ghosts." It was the oldest security guard on the night shift, an acquaintance of his, Mr. Anselmo.
Leo watched him suspiciously. "Did you know the girl was there?" The man smiled, a sad smile. "I knew something was wrong, but nobody believes someone who cleans the floor, kid." He lit a cigarette and looked at the ceiling. "You did what none of us dared to do, but be careful. When the truth starts to come out, Whoever brought it usually pays the price. The words echoed in Leo's head as he returned to the lobby. The day was sunny, but the atmosphere still felt heavy. Donizetti was giving an interview to the press, and the name Vivienne was repeated indignantly. Clara watched from an upstairs window, her expression distant. There was relief in her eyes, but also a fear that had not yet dissipated. That night, when everything finally seemed calm, Leo heard his mother's cell phone vibrate on the reception desk. An anonymous message flashed on the screen. "Do you really think it's over?" The boy read it and froze. The number was unknown. He looked around. The lobby was empty, and only the sound of the wind entered through the revolving doors. The message flashed on the screen like a silent threat. Leo turned off the reception light, looked at his reflection in the glass, and whispered to himself, "So there's still more to discover." The silence in the lobby seemed heavier than ever. Leo stared at the message on his mother's phone, his heart racing. "Do you really think it's over?" The words gleamed like a living threat. He turned off the screen and took a deep breath. He knew that if he told his mother, she would be terrified. He needed to find out for himself who was behind this. The hotel held more secrets than it seemed. That morning, reporters and onlookers were still crowding outside. Donizetti had temporarily suspended hotel operations, but was keeping some essential staff. "Maximum security until further notice," the official statement read. Leo, however, knew that security was relative, especially when the enemy was within its own walls. While his mother reviewed spreadsheets at reception, he explored the maintenance corridors, observing familiar faces. He was looking for something, a suspicious glance, a detail out of place. That's when he noticed. Sue Anselmo, the old security guard, was discreetly talking to André, the waiter who had been Vivienne's accomplice. But André was in prison, right? So how was he there? Leo hid behind a cupboard and watched. The man wasn't André, but someone eerily similar. The same haircut, the same nervous posture. The twin brother, he thought, vaguely remembering something his mother had mentioned months before. The name on his badge was Arthur Oliveira. They were speaking quietly, but Leo managed to catch a phrase. "The money's still coming, but I just need to recover the flash drive." The boy's heart raced. There was evidence, and someone was trying to hide it. He waited for the men to leave and followed the sound of footsteps to the materials storage room. Inside, he found a torn folder and among yellowed papers, a small portable safe. He tried to open it, but he needed a password. His instinct told him that what he was looking for was there, perhaps the flash drive.
Meanwhile, in Donizetti's office, Clara was telling her father more details. "Mom always said there were people getting paid to lie to you," she said, her voice weak. Donizetti listened, his gaze lost. "Who else was involved?" he asked. "I don't know, Dad. But she talked to someone at the hotel, always at night." The memory coincided with the time Leo usually heard noises in the hallways. Back at the warehouse, Leo looked around and noticed a broken security camera. Perfect. No one would see him. He hid the safe inside his backpack and left before the shift changed. In the hallway, he bumped into Mr. Anselmo. "Where are you going with that heavy backpack, kid?" the old man asked, half smiling. Leo replied quickly, "I'm helping my mother." But the security guard's gaze lingered on him for too long. Upon arriving at reception, Leo placed his backpack behind the counter and feigned normalcy. Exhausted, Donizetti handed him a snack. "Stay quiet, okay? The boss is nervous about the press." Leo nodded. As she walked away, he discreetly removed the safe and attempted to open it with random passwords, dates, room numbers, even names. Nothing worked. Disheartened, he leaned his head against the counter and closed his eyes for a moment. That's when he heard Donizetti's own voice coming from the reception radio. "Security team, review last night's cameras. Look for unauthorized access to the elevator shaft." Leo smiled. Cameras, that's it. The footage could show who put Clara there, and perhaps also who sent the message. He stood up slowly, grabbed his backpack, and went up to the security control room. The door was locked, but he already knew the trick, a precise push on the bottom corner. Inside, dozens of monitors displayed black and white images. Leo began rewinding the recording from the night of the kidnapping. Lights flickered, shadows passed. Then, something froze his blood. A female silhouette entering the elevator corridor with a mask on her face. It wasn't Vivian. The woman turned to the camera, and even in the shadows, Leo recognized an unforgettable detail. The gold bracelet he had seen on the wrist. Hotel manager. The shock of the discovery left Leo reeling. The manager, Donna Mirella, was one of the most respected people at the hotel. Always elegant, always smiling. She treated everyone with kindness, even the waiters. But there she was, in the video, dragging a gagged child into the elevator. And worse, the recording had been made hours before the party starts. Vivian's story was only part of the truth. Leo closed the door and locked himself in the room. He needed to copy the video before someone found it. He rummaged through the drawers and found an old flash drive. His heart pounded as he transferred the images. "Let's see who's really sending messages," he murmured. When he finished, he put the device in his backpack and turned off the lights.
Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Mirella was coming. "Is anyone there?" she asked, her voice firm but slightly anxious. Leo hid behind a pile of boxes. "I need to check the recordings for the police," she said, opening the cabinets. The boy held his breath. When she finally left, he ran to the service stairs, the sound of his own heartbeat drowning everything out. He arrived at the reception and looked for his mother, but she had gone out to get reports. He took advantage of the moment and wrote a quick note. "If anything happens to me, give this flash drive to Mr. Donizetti." He put the paper inside the safe and hid it under the counter, among old magazines. He had a plan: to confront Mirella directly and record everything on his cell phone. Hours later, the hotel was almost empty. The clock read 11:45 p.m. Mirella, elegant as always, was checking papers in the office. Leo appeared at the door, pretending to be lost. "Hi, Mrs. Mirella. My mother asked me to give you this." She looked up, surprised. "Leo, so late?" The boy shrugged, remaining calm. "It's about the owner's daughter's case." Her expression changed subtly. "And what do you know about that, darling?" Her tone sounded too sweet. Leo feigned innocence, only that someone was helping the stepmother. Mirella stood up slowly, closing the door. "Really? And who told you that?" The air in the office grew thick. Leo felt the scent of her perfume mingling with the fear that was beginning to rise in his throat. "I saw the video," he said, staring at her. For a moment her face froze, then a cold smile appeared. "So you're smarter than you look." Mirella took a step forward, her heels echoing on the floor. "You know, Leo, certain truths come at a high price, sometimes more expensive than a job." She held the boy's chin, drawing closer. "You should have kept quiet." Leo took a step back, disguising the trembling in his hands. "I already sent the video to the police," he lied, trying to buy time. Mirella laughed. "Liar. The system is still offline. I turned it off myself." She turned to the computer, typing something hurriedly. The boy took advantage of the moment to grab his cell phone and press record. The conversation would be his weapon.
Why did you help her? He asked. Mirella stopped typing and looked over her shoulder. Because nobody in this hotel is innocent, Leo. Not even Donizetti. She just wanted to speed up what was already going to happen. Her voice held a hint of restrained hatred. This empire was built on lies, and someone needed to destroy it. Before Leo could react, the sound of heavy footsteps filled the hallway. It was Donizetti and 2 police officers. The door slammed open. Mirella turned, her face contorted in pure terror. "Mr. Donizetti, But the billionaire held up the flash drive. "I've already seen the video."
Leo breathed a sigh of relief. What he didn't know was that the real danger was still lurking, and that someone far more powerful was behind it all. The silence that followed Donizetti's entrance was almost deafening. Mirella looked around, searching for an exit that didn't exist. The cold glare of the lamps made her face look like a cracked mask. "Mr. Donizetti, I can explain," she began, but he raised his hand. "Explain then. Explain why there are images of you taking my daughter to an elevator shaft." The manager took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. "I was doing what needed to be done. Viviane was just a piece on the board. You trusted me too much, and your empire became vulnerable. I simply accepted an offer." Donizetti frowned. "An offer from whom?" Mirella looked away. "From the man you deceived first." Leo watched the scene, partially hidden behind an armchair. His heart pounded, but his attentive eyes took in every detail. Donizetti stepped forward, his voice deep. "Are you saying there was someone else involved?" Mirella smiled bitterly. "Not just one. The real owner of this hotel was never you." The billionaire paled. "What are you saying?" Mirella let out a nervous laugh. "The Donizetti name is just a front. The initial capital came from a silent partner whom you betrayed to keep everything. The girl's inheritance, the marriage, all of that was part of the agreement to pay off this old debt." Leo felt the air slip away. The web was deeper than anyone had imagined. "Who is this man?" Donizetti insisted. Mirella lowered her eyes, her voice almost a whisper. "You know him better than you think. He never left here." Before she could say more, the sound of gunshots echoed down the hallway. The police officers rushed to the door, but were stopped by a sudden blackout. The lights flickered, plunging the office into total darkness. Leo instinctively ducked down. Donizetti pulled Mirella behind the table, while the sound of footsteps echoed in the dim light. A beam of light pierced the broken glass. Someone outside was shining a flashlight. "Nobody move!" shouted a male voice. Leo recognized the tone. It was Arthur, Andre's twin brother, the complicit waiter. He hadn't run away. He was there to keep everything quiet. The police tried to react, but the intruder shot at the light fixtures, scattering shards across the floor. "Give me the pen drive, Donizetti. It's worth more than your lives." Mirella, terrified, cowered. "You promised you'd get me out of here," she said, her voice trembling. "I promised silence, not salvation," he replied scornfully. Leo crawled to a bookshelf, trying to reach the phone. The sound of footsteps grew closer, louder and louder. Suddenly, the emergency light came on, revealing the intruder's face, sweaty, furious, his eyes bloodshot with rage. "It's over, Donizetti," he said, pointing the gun. "You stole everything from me. Now I'm going to steal what's left." Donizetti stood up slowly, keeping his hands raised. "What do you want? Money? I can give you anything." Arthur laughed. "What I want is your name and your blood to cleanse what you've done." Leo looked around desperately until he saw something behind the sofa, a fire hose. The plan came to him in seconds. He just needed to distract the shooter.
Donizetti explained in a low voice. "He created this empire, but sold some of the shares to dangerous people. I never knew who really controlled everything. Now, it seems his ghosts have returned to collect the debt." Clara rested her head on her father's shoulder. "So it's over." Donizetti smiled, but his eyes betrayed doubt. "For now." As they left the hotel, Leo glanced one last time at the broken elevator. The metal still held the echo of the cry that had called to him that night. He clutched the metal in his hand and made a silent vow. He would never let a secret die in the dark. Beside him, Clara smiled, and for the first time, the Donizetti Hotel awoke in peace. But in the shadows of the underground parking lot, a figure watched the sunrise with a crooked smile. The reflection of the name tag shone for a moment before disappearing into the darkness. The name printed on it was the same one Leo had read on Mirella's papers, A. Donizetti. The real owner was still nearby. The following morning dawned serene, but the Hotel Donizetti was far from peaceful. The press camped outside the entrance, and camera flashes vied for every word Donizetti spoke. Leo and his mother watched from afar, hidden behind the reception desk, trying to understand what their future held. "He said he wants to keep our jobs?" asked Donizetti, still in disbelief. "He said more than that, Mom. He said we're part of history now." The boy tried not to think about the images from the previous night, the gunshots, the gushing water, the fear etched in Mirella's eyes. It all seemed like a bad dream. But when he touched the gold medal in his pocket, he felt reality pulsing there. It was more than a symbol. It was proof that courage could be born from silence. Clara, now recovered, came to see him in the reception area. She was wearing simple clothes and a shy smile. "My father wants to thank you again," she said, fidgeting nervously with her hands. Leo shook his head. "No need. I only did what I had to do." She chuckled softly. "You talk like an adult." He shrugged. "Maybe I became one last night." Donizetti appeared soon after, exhausted but grateful. "Leo, I want you to know that your mother will have a new position and a new contract. And you, boy, are invited to study at the best school in the city at my expense." Donizetti covered her mouth, moved. "Sir, this is too much." But Donizetti interrupted her. "It's not a favor, it's recognition." Leo remained silent for a few seconds. "Mr. Donizetti, do you still think it's all over?" The magnate looked at him surprised. "Why?" Leo took the small folder out of his backpack and showed him the last document he had kept, a yellowed sheet of paper that read, "Partnership Agreement, Augusto Donizetti and A. Donizetti." "That middle name, it's not your father. It's someone else using the same name."
While Donizetti tried to negotiate, Leo crept silently and grabbed the red lever on the wall. A metallic snap filled the air, and then a jet of pressurized water exploded in the office, hitting everything. Arthur yelled, firing wildly. The confusion gave one of the policemen enough time to step in and disarm him with a precise blow. When everything calmed down, the office was soaked, and Mirella, handcuffed, was crying silently. Donizetti knelt before Leo, wet but smiling. "You saved us all, again." The boy was breathing rapidly, his body trembling with adrenaline. "I think the hotel needs new security rules, sir." Donizetti laughed, and for the first time it was a genuine laugh. Dawn broke with the sound of sirens and a light rain beating against the hotel windows. Arthur and Mirella were taken away in handcuffs, their faces obscured by camera flashes. The Donizetti case dominated the news. "Attempted murder, kidnapping, and corruption in a luxury network," the headlines proclaimed. But Leo just wanted to go home and sleep. While the police officers were giving their statements, Donizetti approached the boy and his mother. "You have no idea how much you helped me. Without you, my daughter would be dead, and maybe me too." Donizetti held her son's hand tightly, proud and relieved. "He's stubborn, sir, but he has a heart bigger than this hotel." Leo smiled shyly. Downstairs, experts were still examining the elevator shaft. It was there that everything had begun, and there the investigation ended. The twisted cables, the marks of the ropes, the ancient footprints. One of the researchers commented, "This place is a symbol, you know, the top and the bottom of the same empire." Leo heard and remembered the phrase, feeling the weight of its meaning. Later, Donizetti called Leo and Clara to the terrace, now empty. The city still slept under the fog. "You two remind me of something I lost a long time ago. Innocence," he said, looking at the horizon. "Perhaps power has blinded me, but you have taught me that there is still courage in the world." Leo lowered his eyes, unsure what to answer. Clara held the boy's hand, smiling. "You're my hero, Leo." He blushed, looking away. "I only did what anyone would do." Donizetti laughed. "No, my boy. Most people would have turned their backs on you." He took something from his pocket, a small gold medal. "It's a symbol of gratitude. May remind you that truth always finds its way." As the sun rose, painting the sky orange, Leo looked down at the hotel floors. Each window seemed to tell a story, a memory. "Will the hotel reopen?" he asked. Donizetti sighed. "Perhaps, but with a different name, and with different people. No more masks." The words hung in the air, like a promise. Suddenly, a police officer appeared, holding a wet briefcase. "Mr. Donizetti, we found this in the manager's office." Inside were old documents, transfer receipts, contracts, and a name repeated several times, Augusto Donizetti. The tycoon was silent for a moment. "My father. So that was it." Leo frowned. "Your father?"
Donizetti's face paled. "Are you saying there's another Donizetti?" Leo nodded. "I think so, and he's still out there." The magnate ran a hand through his hair, uneasy. "So, the real mastermind is still at large." The silence that followed was heavy. The peace they all believed they had achieved was only a truce. Hours later, Donizetti left the hotel under police escort, taking Clara with him and promising to return soon. The press shouted questions, but he remained silent. Leo watched from afar, the warm metal in his hand. His mother approached and hugged him. "You are the bravest boy I know." He rested his head on her shoulder. "I just want to sleep, Mom." That night, the hotel was empty. The lobby seemed larger, the silence deeper. Leo walked to the closed elevator and sat down in front of it, looking at his reflection in the metal surface. If evil can hide in a luxury hotel, then perhaps goodness can also reside in an ordinary boy. Suddenly, something gleamed under the elevator door, a small white envelope. Leo picked it up and saw his name handwritten on it in blue ink. Inside, a single sentence. "The Donizetti legacy doesn't end here. A.D." His heart raced. He looked around, nothing but silence. He put the note in his pocket and stood up slowly, looking down the dark hallway ahead. He was sure of one thing. The hotel still held secrets, and he wasn't leaving until he discovered them. Days later, the Hotel Donizetti was officially closed for renovations and internal audit. The golden doors were sealed, and the main sign began to be dismantled. Leo watched from the sidewalk, his hands in his pockets, with a bittersweet feeling. "It's really over," his mother said, standing beside him. "But you'll start again, only in a better way." He nodded, though he knew the story was far from over. Clara came to say goodbye that morning. Donizetti's black car was waiting on the corner. "My father wants us to go to a house in the countryside for a while, but I didn't want to go without seeing you." Leo tried to smile. "You'll be fine, and you'll be able to sleep without fear." Clara held the medal hanging around his neck. "That's your luck, isn't it?" He laughed. "Maybe, but I think now it's more than that." Before getting into the car, Clara handed over a small envelope. My father sent this for you." Inside, there was a business card. Donizetti Institute for Young Researchers. Below is a sentence. "All truth begins with those who have the courage to ask questions." Leo read it and smiled. "It sounds like something out of a movie." Clara replied, "It sounds like the beginning of another one." When the car drove away, Leo stood there for a while, watching the sun's reflection on the hotel windows. His mother called him, but he kept staring, lost in thought. He could still hear echoes of that fateful night, the crying, the sound of the water, the click of the elevator. Part of him wanted to forget, but another part knew he never could.
That same night, back home, Leo took the note signed AD out of his backpack and examined it under the dim light of the bedside lamp. The handwriting was elegant, almost identical to Donizetti's. "If it's not his father, who is it?" he murmured. He picked up his cell phone and compared it to the contract document. The same stroke on the D, the same curved style. They're from the same family. As he pondered, he heard light knocking on the window. He ran to look and saw a black car parked across the street. A man in a dark suit was waving something in his hand. It looked like a letter. Leo hesitated, then went down the stairs and opened the gate. The man handed over the envelope without saying anything. "Whose is this?" the boy asked. "From someone who admires you," the stranger replied, before disappearing around the corner. Back in his room, Leo opened the letter. Inside, a map of the hotel's basement with a red mark over the old elevator shaft. On the back, another phrase. "Not everything that was buried was forgotten." The boy felt a chill. The mystery was reborn, silent, like the hotel itself. That night, before going to sleep, Leo looked at the medal on the nightstand and smiled slightly. "I think I still have work to do," he whispered. Outside, the rain began to fall, softly, like a reminder that all truth, no matter how buried, always finds a way to rise to the surface. And in the heart of the boy who one day heard a cry in the dark was born the desire to never again let silence win. Dawn arrived shrouded in mist, and the city seemed asleep under a heavy silence. Leo awoke before the sun, the map still open on his desk. The red mark above the elevator shaft caught his attention like a wound that wouldn't heal. He ran his finger across the paper, thoughtful. "Not everything that was buried is forgotten." The words echoed like an invitation or a warning. Downstairs, the smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen. Donna Celia sang softly, oblivious to the doubt swirling in her son's mind. "Today is your first day off, Leo. Promise you won't get into trouble," she said, smiling. He laughed, trying to hide his excitement. "I promise, Mom." But the promise sounded weak even to himself. His gaze kept returning to the map, as if something were calling him back to the hotel. After coffee, Leo put the medal around his neck and put the map in his backpack. "I'm just going for a walk," he announced. Donna Celia didn't suspect a thing. The morning wind blew cold as he walked down the deserted avenue toward the condemned building. The safety tapes still surrounded the entrance, but the side gate was ajar. It was as if someone was waiting for him.
Inside, the hotel was shrouded in silence. The marble still gleamed, but the air smelled of abandonment. Leo passed through the reception area, now covered in dust, and descended the stairs to the basement. The sound of his footsteps echoed off the walls, and his heart pounded. When he reached the elevator shaft, time seemed to stand still. The place where it had all begun now called to him again. The lantern trembled in his hand as he illuminated the floor. Nothing seemed different, except for one detail: a small wooden box, carefully placed beside the iron door. There was a note attached to the lid, with his name handwritten on it. Leo knelt and took a deep breath before opening it.
Inside, a sealed envelope and an old photograph of two men smiling in front of the newly opened hotel. One of them was Donizetti. The other was also Donizetti. Leo blinked, confused. They were identical, except for their eyes. On the back of the photo, a phrase written in elegant calligraphy. 2 heirs, 1 empire. A secret that time tried to hide. The boy felt a shiver run through his body. The signature in the corner was familiar. A. Donizetti. The real one. The one that was still around. The envelope contained another letter addressed to him. You opened doors that no one else dared to open, Leo. Now the truth is your responsibility. The hotel was just the beginning. Soon you will understand what is really at stake. The boy read and reread, his heart racing. He felt part of something much bigger, something that even Donizetti couldn't explain. Suddenly, a metallic sound echoed. The elevator, out of service for months, moved an inch, creaking like a sigh from the past. Leo took a step back, startled. The flashlight flickered and went out. In the darkness, only a red light blinked on the control panel, emitting a soft sound. Bip, 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 as if someone, deep down, was calling him again. He looked at the ceiling, took a deep breath, and smiled slightly. All right, if it's to find out, then I'll come back. He put the note in his pocket, raised his flashlight, and took a step toward the shaft. The echo of his footsteps mingled with the distant sound of the elevator, slowly descending. Fear and curiosity met within him, and this time he didn't back down. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds, casting golden rays on the façade of the old hotel. The letterless sign looked like a nameless body, but in the shadows, a new story was unfolding. Leo, the receptionist's son, now carried a secret bigger than himself. The boy who had heard a cry in the dark had become the guardian of the truth. And as the elevator descended, taking him back into the depths of the mystery, Clara's voice echoed in his mind, soft yet firm. There's something Dad doesn't know yet, and only you can help me find out. The sound of the grinding metal was lost in the darkness, and the silence was broken again. Silence may hide secrets, but it is courage that reveals the truth. If this story captivated you until the end, sign up now and join us to discover what else the Hotel Donizetti still has in store for you, because the next mystery has already begun.